Chapters 28 and 29 of Maniac Magee. The first book Grayson could read cover to cover was The Little Engine That Could. It took almost an hour and was the climax to a long evening of effort. At the end, the old man was sweating and exhausted. The kid's reaction surprised him. He didn't jump and yippee like he did after the first sentence. He just stayed in the far corner, seated on a stuffed and lumpy equipment bag. He had kept his distance all during the reading, letting Grayson know that there would be no cheating. He had to do it on his own. Now he's just staring at Grayson, a small smile coming over his face. And now he's making a fist and clenching it toward Grayson, saying, "Amen." What's that? Amen. What's that for? Who prayed? I learned it in the church I used to go to. You don't have to wait for a prayer. You just say it when somebody says something or does something you really like. He hopped off the bag, thrust both hands to the ceiling, and shouted, "Amen." And suddenly the kid was hugging him, squeezing with a power you never suspected was in that little body, unless you had seen him pull a baseball almost to the trees in dead center field. Excuse me, I'm just drinking. "Okay," said Maniac, clapping his hands. "I need more coffee. What'll it be? I'll be the cook. Whatever you want." Maniac had a toaster oven now, compliments of his whiskered friend. In fact, little by little, Grayson had brought him a lot of things. A chest's drawers for his clothes, a space heater, a 2-foot refrigerator, hundreds of paper dishes, and plastic utensils, blankets, a mat to sleep on, which the kid ignored, preferring the chest protectors. In time, the place was homier than his own room at the Y. "How about a corn muffin?" said Grayson, choosing something easy on his bad teeth and aching gums. Maniac went to the bookcase that served as a pantry. "One corn muffin coming up. Toasted? Yeah, why not? Butter? Sure, butter. Something to drink with that, sir?" "Nah, muffin's enough. The apple juice is excellent, sir. It was great for the apples." "Live it up," thought Grayson. "Yeah, okay, apple juice. Coming right up, sir." After the snack, the kid proved himself as good as a mind reader as a cook. "Why don't you stay overnight? It's late." While he groused about such a preposterous idea, the kid laid down the mat he never used, bulldogged him down to it, pulled off his shoes, and draped a blanket over him. He protested, "This is supposed to be yours." The kid patted his chest protectors. I'm okay, and he knew that he was telling. That was the truth of it. The old man gave himself up willingly to his exhausted and drifted off like a lazy sky-high fly ball. Something deep in his heart, unmeasured by his own consciousness, soared unburdened for the first time in 37 years, since the time he had so disgraced himself before the Mudhen Scout, and named himself therefore a failure. The blanket was there, but it was the boy's embrace that covered and warmed him. When somebody does something you really like, amen. The old man whispered into the cornmeal and baseball-scented darkness. Chapter 29. For most of November, Winter toyed with two mills, that's the name of their place, whispered in its ears, tickled it under the chin. On Thanksgiving Thursday, Winter kicked in to the stomach. But that didn't stop the old man from the boy and joining the 10,000 who thronged to the stadium on the boulevard to see the traditional high school football game. The Arctic air laid panes of ice over the crayfish edges of Stony Creek. The effect was the opposite on human noses. Maniacs and Grayson ran like faucets, and not a handkerchief in sight. They deputized their sleeves and grabbed handfuls of napkins from the refreshment stands. Two Mills won the game thanks to a last-minute 73-yard touchdown pass from quarterback Dehaney to James hands down. We remember him. From the instant his old trash-talking sandlot pile cradled the ball to his long brown fingers, Maniac was jumping on his seat, screaming trash at Hand's pursuers every step of the goal line, and glancing about to make sure Mrs. Beale wasn't hearing. By the time they got back to the baseball room, they were nearly frozen, but the freeze was good, for it made the warmth of the little apartment all the more welcome. Within 15 minutes, the space heater had the place positively tropical, while in the toaster oven, their 5-pound Thanksgiving chicken was already beginning to brown. A pair of hot plates and a squad of pots were pressed into action, and by mid-afternoon, the two were sitting down to a feast of roast chicken, gravy, cranberry sauce, applesauce, SpaghettiOs, raisins, pumpkin pie, and butterscotch crimpets. Maniac thought of Thanksgiving past of sitting around a joyless table, his aunt and uncle as silent and lifeless as the mammoth bird they gnawed on. He said this grace: Dear God, we want to take this opportunity to thank you for the best Thanksgiving dinner we ever had. Well, I ever had. I guess I shouldn't speak for my friend Grayson. He peeked across the table. Grayson, he whispered, is this the best one for you, too? The old man opened one eye. He shrugged. Don't know. Ain't tasted it yet. Maniac glared, rolled his eyes upward, hissed, Grayson. The old man flinched. Yeah? He squinted one-eyed at the chicken. Yeah, I guess it is. The best, Maniac prompted. The best. Maniac went on praying. And we want to thank you for this warm house and for our little family here and for Grayson learning to read. He's already read 13 books, as I'm sure you already know. And one more thing. If you could find some way to let the Beal family know I'm wishing them a happy Thanksgiving, I'd really appreciate it. They're the ones on 728 Sycamore Street, in case there's any other Beals around. Amen. Amen, said Grayson. They stuffed themselves silly, then collapsed and listened to polka music. Grayson had brought over a record player a week before, along with his entire music collection, 31 polka records. Grayson loved polkas. Of course, one cannot listen to polka music for long before getting up and dancing, which is what the two Thanksgiving givers did as soon as their bloated stomachs allowed. They danced and they laughed, record after record. Whether it was the polka that they danced is another question. It was nearly dark, both of them having recollapsed, when Maniac said, is there any paint around? Guess so, said Grayson. What for? You'll see. Can you get a brush? The old man dragged himself up. What color? How about black? 5 minutes later, the old man was black. Got brown? That'll do. Fine, said Maniac. He opened the can, stirred the paint, put a jacket on, grabbed the brush, and went outside. Grayson followed. He watched the kid paint on the outside of the door in careful strokes. 101. Maniac stepped back, admiring his work. 101, he proclaimed. 101 Bandshell Boulevard. They gave themselves an address that they can sleep at.